Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Trust everyone is safe. All of you are doing okay at home and in office, wherever you are operating from. And it's a pleasure to be here as part of the e-commerce retail supply chain 2021 summit, which CII Institute of Logistics has organized. And welcome to the second technical session on last mile delivery, improving reliability and service levels. My name is Sudeep Mehrotra. I am a managing director with Alvarez and Marcel, operate out of Mumbai. I've been in this industry for close to 15 years now, and I've been working closely with some of the operators and a lot of investors who have looked at this space very closely. And with me, I have a very distinguished panel. I'll maybe very quickly introduce the panel to all of you. We have Suleja Satpoi. She is a senior product marketing lead for transport and logistics with Here Technologies. She is based out of Singapore, and she has over 19 years of experience in product development, product marketing, and has worked with companies like Nokia, StarHub, IBM, Motorola in the past. Welcome, Suleja. We have Naval Sabarwal, who is a veteran in this space. He has over 4 decades of logistics and supply chain experience. A lot of it comes from his early days with Indian Air Force, where he also did some distinguished work, where he also got awarded for the Presidential Medal. He is an expert in 3PL forwarding express, and now he heads the global head and supply chain lead for Ramco Systems, and has a passion for artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, and other new age technologies. Welcome, Naval. We have KB Nagaraju. He's a director with Big Basket. Uh, End-to-end experience in planning, imports, manufacturing, custom order management, logistics, general management across various kinds of companies. He's now with Big Basket, as I mentioned earlier, and we'll look forward to hearing his view as part of this session. We have Abhijit Sen Gupta, who is a director Southeast Asia and India here Technologies. And Abhijit brings over 2 decades of experience in sales and business development, product management, and product operations. And he has been driving B2B and B2C sales for market leading organizations in India and Southeast Asia. Uh, Welcome, Abhijit. Look forward to hearing your thoughts. We
Thank
have
you.
we have Mani Bhushan, who is business head e-commerce and surface for Blue Dart. Over 17 years of experience across supply chain operations, customer service. Has worked with companies like Home Shops 18, L'Oreal, Spencer's Retail before this stint. Look forward to hearing from Mani as well on his views on how leading companies like Blue Dart are innovating every day and improvising every day to service the last mile the way we experience at home. I'll maybe quickly introduce the subject, and then we have a presentation by Suleja which will follow. I think the gist or the theme is as follows. In the last maybe decade, uh, we as consumers and as a country have seen a significant growth in e-commerce. I think when we first used to talk about e-commerce early 2010s, it used to be some less than a million packages a day, maybe 2,000, 3,000, 2 lakh, 3 lakh a day kind of a movement which used to happen. And that itself was quite complex because before that, COD last mile was quite a complex thing which none of the industry had ever experienced. From that day to today, I think we are talking about 3 million, 4 million packages in a day for different kinds of products and across various regions. From tier one, we have only for metros, we have only gone back to tier one, tier two, tier three. So experience of customers has only increased in terms of the scope and which some of these companies have reached. For all companies in FMCG, FMCD, auto, garments, fashion, food, perishable food, none of these companies or participants can now ignore the proportion of sales which happens through e-commerce. uh, and hence the complexity has not only increased in number of scale, which means that we have grown some 15 20 times in the last 3 4 4 5 years, but also on back of the kinds of products, right, from temperature sensitive to non temperature sensitive to fast moving to slow moving. And to add to it, every day, every month, every week, uh, the customer is changing the rules of the game. So within 24 hours has now become within 3 hours, and soon we will want everything just in time at home, right? So the customer experience has only been becoming more and more demanding, rightly so. And with that comes a complication of also managing the costs. So while on one side we have an ever increasing complexity of how do we meet the ever increasing demands of the customer, on the other side we also have a cost which should be kept within a specific range for making this industry really work. So I'm very happy that we have some of the think tanks on the panel today, and I really look forward to a very insightful discussion. So thank you everyone on the panel for taking out time. Uh, Maybe I'll start with Suleja. I know that you have a presentation which you wanted to start this discussion with. Let's do that, and then we can go back to everyone else with their views. Over to you, Suleja.
Thank you, Mr. Sudeep, and a very good afternoon to everyone. And thank you very much for your attendance in this webinar. I'm more than honored to be given the chance to do a brief sharing on HERE Technologies and what is our contributions towards making an efficient last mile in the e-commerce world. So HERE Technologies has been the location intelligence industry for more than 3 decades. And we've built our expertise throughout the years, from data to location platform, as well as software and solutions. And this acknowledgement of these expertise and technology leadership has been maintained for many years, including the acknowledgement from leading market research companies such as Ovum, Counterpoint Research, and Strategy Analytics. And recently this year, we were again ranked #1, securing our position in openness, vision, and growth in this location platform space. Now, with the recent pandemic that has happened since last year, we see there's a certain shift and influence on e-commerce in Asia and India. Now, what happens? So we saw that the way the business is done, not only in India, not only in ASEAN, has changed. If you look into the recent report by the India Brand Equity Foundation, there's an expected growth about 200 billion forecasted in the e-commerce space until 2026. And if we look into the e-commerce orders, just for the last quarter of last year, there's a sudden surge at 36% increase. And more are coming with the users in this space when they look into shopping online. And it's not just in India alone, in ASEAN as well. If we see a lot of, like what Mr. Sudeep has mentioned, everyone is going online, not only just for groceries, not only just for food. So there's a lot more that has been purchased. And the shift across age and income segments has also been transformed. So now a lot more digital applications have been opened up towards more 45 to 50-year-olds. And they are planned to shop a lot more online in the future. So what does that mean? So it means from us here, we recognize there's a need to help address some of these demands from logistics. And it impacts a lot of challenges, particularly in the last mile, because we know that 50% of the total cost of delivery occurs in the last mile. Now, looking at it, if you look into the last mile delivery market, now by 2027, we are looking at a USD about $2.29 billion. So that's a huge market that we should tackle. And in HERE Technologies, we offer a full service, a software as a service product that help our customers to plan operations from job planning to delivery. Because we see this simple full service application with a straightforward pricing that can help the end users of fleet operators like the drivers, dispatchers, fleet managers, and so on in managing their operations. How do we do that? For example, having the ability to schedule or pre-plan beforehand with specific fleet attributions will help drivers a lot. So for example, if you look into trucks, so it is important to get the right vehicle for the right job, suited to the required conditions. Because the truck attribution parameters that we have is what's available and applicable in each country. And this is the main difference or differentiator in this particular solutions, because in mature countries, we have a large national footprint, while the rest in the developing countries, we ensure that the data on truck attributes were kept updated. Now, this helps a lot, especially if they are going into low-hanging bridge or a restriction into certain lanes on heavy vehicles. So the next one would be optimizing and dispatching of tours. So for fleet planners, they can create complex tour plans with detailed directions on how to access to a location to optimize the driver's time and improve ETAs or estimated time arrivals and do more jobs at the same time. And they can assess this list of jobs against the pool of resources of manpower and the available fleets or drivers to create the delivery runs for the day. So managing this helps the fleet managers or planners optimize their operations well. Now, sometimes during certain transit, it changes because it's whether due to a traffic delay or delay at border crossing or misplaced cargo. So the logistic manager struggles to identify the location of these goods if they do not have the ability to track the progress. Now, these disruptions require rerouting, and we enable that. And here provides an end-to-end solution to track high-value goods across multiple modes of transportation and integrates it with the leading logistics systems to provide more detail and accuracy of the location of goods and potential disruption points. And using a single platform to centralize the operation helps a lot, and it's very critical because in the last mile context, we have seen fleets moving from proof of delivery to digital. So you just sign on glass. This is a contactless form of delivery. And adopting COVID-safe methodologies and contact-free deliveries where the driver need to be provided with the tools to manage the handover and giving the customer transparent visibility and proof of delivery will be able to close the freight loop. And this can be accessed across, let's say, tablet or any deployment on multiple devices. And being connected always on the road is not exactly a given thing, especially if you're in a location where there's no data network. Our last mile solution allows driver to download the maps and go offline and still be able to navigate while they're offline to their destination. And when the network is available, they can then get real-time traffic information and is able to be rerouted accordingly. Now, finally, I would like to say, to wrap it up, that the key values we want to bring this service are to optimize operational efficiencies and reduce the cost to customers. And with features that help not just the fleet managers, but drivers in order to retain the workforce and provide driver satisfaction and safety is helpful. And thus with safe, efficient drivers performing the last mile service effectively will then naturally increase the service quality to customers. So with here, please join us in more virtual conversations to learn more if you like to scan the QR code. Thank you, and I'd like to hand it off again back to our moderator, Mr. Sudip.
Thank you so much, Suleja. This was quite interesting. I think the key takeaways for me were the point around 50% of the cost is last mile, which all of us know, but that's importantly a cost which has come down over a period of time. Productivity has improved. People are carrying more packages in a trip, but at the same time, the journey is never complete. More and more challenges keep coming in. with COVID, before COVID, after COVID, and there will be new kinds of e-commerce customers which will get added every day. So this was quite insightful. We would encourage all the participants to keep connected with the link that you shared. Uh, from here, maybe I'll just move to maybe thinking a little more about this. I think I was listening to Elon Musk and Jack Ma a few days back, and one of the things they said was artificial intelligence is not about only doing a specific thing in a way that the best person having that knowledge will take decisions is much more than that, in the sense that intelligence which a system can create can be far more superior that one the most knowledgeable person can ever think of. And I think technologies like here are trying to solve some of these complex problems. But we have practitioners on the panel like Mani and Mr. Nagaraju who deal with this day in and day out. So maybe I'll start with Mani to start with. Mani, welcome. The question, or maybe the views, that if you could start with on what have you seen has changed in last mile expectations from the client, and how do you perceive it as a challenge for delivering service levels and reliability each time. So some views on what is changing, what is expected to change, and hence impact on service delivery platform providers like you.
Yeah.
Over to you, Mani. Yeah.
Thanks, Sudeep. Thank you so much. It is very nice to be a part of this esteemed panel and share my thoughts. Sudeep raised a valid question on reliability. Okay, now let's first, before I talk about the things which are changing, let's talk about the things which will never change for reliability. Okay, the first thing which comes is serviceability. You need to service, right? We were in an unprecedented lockdown in April, May last year, right? Everything was closed. Blue Dart continued its operation and continued to service its partner. When delivery was not allowed, I mean, physical deliveries was not allowed, we launched contactless delivery, digital POD at that point of time. The first point would remain serviceability for sure. I mean, you cannot say that you're not servicing to your customers, because there would be some kind of a logistical need at every point of time. Second thing which would never change is delivering on the promised transit time. Now, we know that Blue Dart has 6 aircrafts and Blue Dart is the fastest. And there are hardly any last mile logistics player who would have that kind of a air capacity which Blue Dart has. But so you cannot be the fastest, but whatever you are, you have to deliver on your promised transit time. In Blue Dart, we believe that even if you're launching a product, if you're doing it at 90%, don't do it. I mean, figure out a way to do it at 98, 99%. Even during pandemic levels, we have been delivering continuously at 99% service levels. And all our customers appreciate us for that. So these are two basic things which constitute reliability. Now, what happens as you go along, okay, is that okay, now at the end, it still comes to the last mile, okay, and the last mile is about bridging that trust gap. Okay, what was there earlier? How did you use to bridge the trust gap? A gap. For example, if I used to deliver a packet to you, and you raised a concern that no, it was never attempted to me. You know, so the earlier method was that you do a call, you verify, sir, was it attempted? No, it was not attempted. Then you do a reattempt. Now this has changed now. Okay, now so you have to bring in technology here to address some of the gaps. So we launched an OTP-based refusal system. So one of the biggest dispute comes is that I attempted, the end consignee refused. So we brought in OTP-based refusals, and we said that okay, if a customer is giving me the OTP, it's a genuine refusal. And we launched it during pandemic, scaled it up to a next level. The second thing is that how do you kind of say that if there's a reattempt instruction, I mean, I suppose you're not at home and it's a reattempt instruction, how do you ensure that the attempt happens? I mean, you block it in the system rather than earlier it was a physical blockage. Now you're using the ERP systems more to kind of create more awareness around it. The cash is not ready, so you have a digital payment options at the last mile. You say that we at Blue Dart have 16 different payment options. You name it: UPI, debit card, credit card, all wallet options. We had at the last mile, and customers are using it. We have seen a huge surge thanks to the pandemic, but we have seen a huge surge of usage in this. Then we are also talking about some of the things that Suliza talked about: address validation. Okay, now we try to do the address validation at the first mile itself, so that it becomes easier for the last mile delivery guys to attempt the package at the right address. We are also trying to work on a geofencing the addresses. Although the quality of addresses in India are bad, but we are figuring out a way. We'll figure out as we go along. We are trying to use drone deliveries with for last mile delivery. We'll just be piloting it with Telangana government. Also, there are things which becomes important. Training, for example, it's a high attrition industry, right? Okay, I mean at the last mile, the attrition levels are pretty high. So training and retraining becomes important. And in the physical world, we used to have trainers traveling to the locations, train them or call them to a central office, a regional office, or a branch office, train them and send them on the field. But it was not possible in pandemic. So you have to adapt fast. Now we have trained more people in the pandemic through digital medium than we used to do it earlier. So there are ways and means which the entire execution is changing. Uh, and then the basic thing is that, okay, now what is the basic product of logistics? It's about just picking and delivering the packets. But there are various enhancements which are requested by the customers. For example, one of the biggest mobile brands of the world was launching their online store in India, and they wanted to launch it with exchange product. It was a highly complex process through various APIs talking to each other at the last mile and even during the journey. And we won this contract in the month of January, just 2 months before the pandemic. But they still wanted to go with the launch. We developed that product. We launched it successfully. Obviously, there were lots of training, lots of UATs which happened, and it was a very successful launch. And it was a hit. The most of the customers receiving the packets at the last mile would be very happy with the service level. They would say that earlier we used to receive it through Amazon or Flipkart, and with Blue Dart we are seeing it coming to us in a day before. So even the new products which you launch, you have to ensure that you launch with that 98-99% accuracy. You cannot be 90%. That's not an answer, and that's where I think most of the logistics players would fail. We in Blue Dart also have a money back TDD product. What we say, if you, for most of the metros, you'll get the product before a particular time, and if you don't get, you'll have a money back which we give it back to you if we don't. But accuracy levels in that is 100%. So the reliability remains that it's a matter of trust, and that trust we can only come with 100%, trying to achieve 100% every time you attempt a shipment.
Great, Mani. Just I'll maybe take one more question from you before we move on. I mean, as a supply chain head who deals with e-commerce every day, some of these concerns around reliability and service levels for you, uh, where do you spend most of your time on? Is it like selecting the next technology? Is it like training the staff, or is it more to do with understanding the customer requirement? And so where is your, I mean, where are the most challenging things in terms of leaders who are dealing with this? Where do they spend most of their time? Where is the problem solving taking place largely?
Yeah, so what happens, as I mentioned to you earlier, in Blue Dart, we lay lots and lots of stress over the reliability factor. We say that, okay, whatever we have promised, which means that whatever is the existing business, we have to ensure that we deliver at 10% of time, which means that most of the time would be given to the fact that where are the gaps? Why did we fail even on that one shipment? Because if we have failed today on one shipment, we can fail on 100 shipments tomorrow. So why have we failed on that one shipment? And if we have failed, how do we solve for it? Now, if we solve for it through manual processes, it cannot be scalable, it cannot last long. So then comes the technology part. As I mentioned, that OTP, refusal OTP. As I mentioned, wallet options, for example, contactless delivery, geofencing, and all. So all these things are coming as a part of saying that we're using technology to solve for that failure of that one shipment. When this happens, then you also start having conversation with customers. For example, refusal OTP. One of the customers had huge issues with the refusal at the last mile. So we started working with them, and we said that first we will try to validate your refusals on OTP. So they piloted with us for that refusal OTP, and then they understood that, okay, now there's a gap which they need to address at their platform level. Then maybe talking to. So I think it starts from the fact that where has that one shipment failed, and solves for, and the solution comes from technology, and then it goes to customers solving for their needs as well.
Thanks, Mani. Thank you. This is quite insightful from somebody who a company which services like a very significant part of our e-commerce on day to day, and I think the point around meeting the promise, giving a promise and meeting it is quite relevant. Uh, I will just move and shift gears to a very different kind of product category, which is in the last few years just grown like anything, and the sky is the limit. Grocery for India is pretty big. So we have a leading think tank from grocery industry as well, Mr. Nagaraju from Big Basket. Maybe I'll request him to share his view on how are they thinking about the last mile, and what his views on what is likely to happen uh, in last mile for grocery, and how are they dealing with some of these challenges. Over to you, Mr. Nagaraju.
Yeah, thank you, Sudeep, and very happy to be on this panel. I'm audible now.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So, I mean, as you rightly said, grocery is a more recent segment which to get on board. Well, of course, Big Basket has almost a 10-year history, but in general, grocery has become mainstream only more recently. But at the same time, it is the fastest growing segment and attracting the attention of all the major players, including the horizontals like Amazon and others. The reason mainly being because of the repetitive and more frequency of ordering that any customer would do. Coming to just give an idea about this segment when we take 2019 as a kind of a recent base, the market size was about 2 billion, and for just a 0.3% of the overall market share, overall market size of groceries, which is about 500 billion at that point, 2019. But that has gone to 3 billion. I mean, almost 33% in just 1 year. By 2020, we were at 3 billion, and the percentage is reached 0.5. Now, this year, as we speak, the market size is supposed to be 4 billion, another 1 billion added, and we might more or less close at 1% of the overall grocery market, which would have moved from 500 billion to maybe 600 billion. So that is the kind of rapid growth which is happening in the grocery space. Now, obviously, the pandemic has been a big kicker for the grocery because government allowed mainly essentials. People could not go out and buy, and grocery is such an important part of the anyone's purchase. So the number of customers for grocery actually went up from something like 100 million to more than 250 million just last 1 year, right? And this increase has happened in both T1 cities. When I say T1, most of the major metros, about 7, 8 of them, taking Delhi as three cities, Noida, Gurgaon, and Delhi. And if you take the three cities in South and Calcutta and Mumbai, Pune, across these metros, growth has been, as expected, pretty phenomenal. But more importantly, growth also has happened in T2 in the last 2 years. Two reasons. One is even in tier two cities, more and more people are becoming, online savvy, e-commerce savvy. And secondly, this pandemic especially has created more opportunity. People buying groceries also online. And the third interesting part is lot of people from the grocery online customers have actually started operating, working from home from T2 cities. That is another interesting thing. So when they have gone from T1 to T2, they have actually carried all their aspirations, and they are actually buying and creating a big demand for products, including the increase in range. That about the market size. Now, when I come to the other part, the complexities of grocery itself. First of all, the SKUs are many. And there is a huge fill rate challenges in any grocery industry because we are dependent on so many different manufacturers because we are not producing actually, right? It is the HLLs of the world, Patanjali, Dabur, Himalaya, you name it, ITC and so on. Fill rate is in general, it's a tough thing in the grocery space, but during the pandemic, it became all the more. And one more interesting challenge is in food, people normally are not happy with alternates. I mean, you want to buy Ashirwad Atta, ideally you want to buy that only. So if it is not there, it's a fill rate gone. They may not buy something else. And assortment is localized because what is the assortment of grocery in South is different from North, from West and East for obvious reasons, food habits and other things. And we have this special category of fruits and vegetables, a fresh category within grocery, which is a challenging item to procure, store, pick, and deliver. Then you have chilled and frozen, some of the vegetables themselves need to be delivered in chilled fashion. Apart from that, you have ice creams, you have milk, you have meat and whatnot. Then in grocery, one biggest challenge from an e-commerce perspective, which of course Big Basket is like Blue Dot Money was explaining, we have successfully solved with a lot of effort over the last 10 years is same day delivery. Everyone wants groceries same day. For obvious reasons, again, it's a food item. In a normal circumstance, you'll just go walk across and buy. So in an e-commerce also similar expectations. Then low basket value. So this is another thing which works against us compared to horizontal, where people may be buying a slightly more expensive item, whereas in our case the basket value is more around 1200 to 1400 per order. So you need to manage the entire cost stack within that. That's the challenge. Then the other thing is, because of this very nature, the basket value is low. Cash on delivery or card on delivery, in other words, payment at the time of receiving is also pretty well known. Unlike where in other horizontals, you can always push them to pay upfront because of the nature of the product. And another important thing is, at least in Big Basket, we always had the policy we allowed returns or partial returns at the time of delivery. So that means when they are delivering 20 items, including fruits and vegetables, customer has the choice to return some apples or some cauliflower which is not looking good, or even one of the grocery items which he feels is not good. So these are huge challenges to manage. So how did we do it, and what is the expectation of last mile service providers? When we started this journey, we decided that the only way to do it is have full control on the last mile. So we had our own delivery boys. But over a period of time, as you all know, there are certain very good last mile service providers in the e-commerce space, including Blue Dot and many other specialty last of the last mile service providers also, purely working on urban logistics. So we started outsourcing, but then the biggest problem is the amount of training we need to do, because delivering groceries is a different ball game. You are actually taking 20 items and then you have to show each and every item. You may be dealing with a lady at home when you're delivering most of the time groceries. So you have to have a social etiquette, a certain amount of discipline, and then you have to use hygienic practices, especially during the pandemic. They have to wear their gloves and masks and whatnot. So these are the challenges. So we continue to face this challenge in terms of our ability of the last mile service providers to really ramp up their delivery capacity. And so one thing I noticed especially is, it is not so much the vehicle. We normally, when you talk of last mile delivery, you always think of a van or a bike, as a thing. But in the case of grocery, the person is much more important than the vehicle with which you are driving, with which you are delivering, because he has to understand this segment. He has to understand. He has to carry chilled and frozen, fresh, and so many things, and then long list of items everywhere. He has to ensure that all the items are fully delivered without leaving something back in the inside the vehicle and so on. So what I would do is, I would rather take a small pause here, and then maybe request Sudeep to interact more so that we can take the next question on this.
Yeah, Mr. Nagaraju, this was, I think, very well articulated. In the last 7-8 minutes, we understood the entire complexity of
Yeah,
segment. So I think very well packaged. Then the point around the soft and the hard skills in the last mile, having the person who. So are you not thinking about any specific changes in the way the people dependence can be reduced on last mile? And so you have chilled, you have frozen, you have fresh, you have normal packaged food as well.
yeah,
Uh, and the customer wants everything in one basket. He would not order five different things in different.
correct,
He would,
absolutely,
he would not also open the door five times to receive five things with different people.
correct.
So is how are you dealing with this? Is it like infrastructure issue in terms of the vehicle, or is it like a process issue? How are you dealing to make sure that everything is delivered within that slot
Yeah.
without? Yeah.
Yeah. So at Big Basket, one thing is, while other horizontals may be more tech oriented, at Big Basket, at least we have always defined ourselves as a retail company, retail company in grocery, having to you and then using e-commerce as a channel, So therefore, a lot of these aspects, whatever I mentioned earlier, those have all been built into the process. So because that's the only way, because you have to deliver all these products. So at our warehouse also, if you look at it, FMCG have one way of picking fruits and vegetables are picked. You can imagine fruits and vegetables. We don't want to pick and then keep it in the warehouse or send it to the last mile, etc. Because by the time 2-3 hours inside a cart or a cotton box or inside a crate, we can easily lose the freshness. So we actually have a different cutoff for fruits and vegetables for picking. So they are picked much later, just before it is handed over to a delivery person. Whereas FMCG, we just try to finish it much faster because they don't deteriorate within 2-3 hours. So these are some of the techniques. Similarly, even chilled and frozen, an ice cream box is ideally taken out just 10 minutes out from the box before it is assigned and handed over to the guy. It's almost like you are in a shop, you are taking it out and giving, but we do it at our scale.
Sure.
That is the the process kind of focus and excellence we have created. And in the last mile, these items are put together, and we have also designed. And this is where one problem we faced over the years is now the last mile delivery companies were just not willing to step up to come out with solutions. For example, even today we do not have any van which has got a partially temperature control. We don't have any such van. You have a Tata Ace, it will be either one, or if you go and ask for it, they will make it into a reefer van and give. But there is nothing like where you can send groceries, some items so Big Basket had to solve all such problems. So what we did was we actually created in the earlier days, we created um, uh, small, what do you call it, something like a freezer which is connected to the engines, to the Tata Ace engine. So it runs, and it doesn't freeze, but at least it keeps it in a certain control. So the moment you shift it in the hub into the vehicle and then keep it, it maintains at that level, taking certain small power from the vehicle's powertrain. So we did that for a few years. Then we improved upon our ability to store these items in a very sealed last mile box. We designed it actually with along with experts in the field, and in fact Syntex also played a very important role in designing a delivery box, which is like a big box, let's say 10 liters, in which a lot of frozen or chilled items can be kept with ice pads. So we went into that whole science and then cracked the problem. So that has helped. So when we are handing over the products to the delivery boy, we just hand over a few crates and then one or two of these boxes. And the guy exactly knows for which order he has to open the box and then give out the item. That's how we have did some of these aspects. Over a period of time, we have also tried with a few things like ensuring reliability of the cold chain. Our friend was talking about reliability. Similarly, in cold chain, an ice cream getting delivered in the hot of summer in Delhi or Hyderabad or even Chennai, even if the vehicle is on the run for about 2-3 hours, it can be disastrous if you don't maintain it properly. So one of the things we did was at every stage, from the fulfillment center to the hub, from hub when it is handed over to a vehicle, and in the vehicle also, we have put some IoT device to check the temperature of the children frozen. So the main idea is, if there is some deterioration in the product, at least we replace it at the right time, rather than taking it all the way to the customer and then there you find melted ice cream or something. So in the hub, we allowed certain SKUs to be changed, depending upon what the readings are in the last one. So that is one of the things we try to solve. And cash also is another aspect. Cash, uh, I mean, the delivery boys, whether how often, I mean, they make multiple trips in a day, so they have to come back and deliver. And with more and more delivery boys become coming from gig workers now. Basically, a lot of people entrepreneur workers now just getting onto these platforms. Many of them are working for Big Basket also. with these people, we have to develop a solid mechanism to ensure that we know exactly what cash they're carrying all the time, and there is no pilferage and or loss, etc. So we have devised a certain mechanism by which there is a frequently, through the delivery app, we keep checking how much he has collected, and then when he comes back also, he doesn't have to waste too much time in depositing the cash. So we have actually installed cash deposit machines in all our hubs, last mile hubs. So the guy will come, he doesn't have to waste his time. He just, the machine knows, the route number is known. So how much money he has to pay in that route, how much he has collected is known in advance. So machine accepts that much money and then confirms that he has actually paid that amount inside. So these are some of the innovations we have done in the last mile space to ensure that the whole system becomes very seamless and faster.
Got it. No, so very useful. I think with that, maybe both from you and Mani, I mean, we have understood the importance of the promise that we make, and servicing that promise at scale. And then,
Correct.
Mr. Nagaraju, the way you explained that it's the promise is also about how do you create processes, innovate, deal with
Correct.
different kinds of products. I think we have on the panel with us Naval, and we know that Ramco is in many ways thinking about how can these problems be solved using technology and processes. Naval, it will be good to maybe understand your thoughts, your views on what Mani and Mr. Nagaraju just explained from the customer perspective what's coming in, and if you could share your views on what is being done from the technology perspective and what is the likely future, it will be good to understand your perspective.
Thank you, Sudeep, and I'm delighted to be part of this elite panel and some very interesting and insightful thoughts that we've heard till now. Now, when we use this word supply chain management, there are many acronyms that have been made out of the whole thing, and I think stress and constraint management is what I've heard. But after listening to that presentation on location services pursue, I think I have coined something called soothing and calming management, because the moment a person sees and is able to track and get some reliable information and assured information, they would calm down people and calm down nerves in the whole thing. Now let's get down to the technology part of what technology can do. So there are 3-4 key areas that technology can help. One is process and compliances, helping you to ensure that the business is run that way you ought to run. The second is in terms of experience. It's a big aid and help to improve your user experience at all ends. And user doesn't mean just the end user, it's your driver or handler or anybody else in the whole chain who is engaged in that whole process of fulfillment on the last mile. And the third is the growth of artificial intelligence and machine learning. What I do is I'll focus more on artificial intelligence and machine learning. We as a company develop a platform for logistics service provider, very focused on logistics service provider. And we have a lab back in Singapore, the Logistics Research Center, which is funded by the Economic Development Board in Singapore, where we undertake all the experiments. And there are a number of things that we've done in the world of logistics, and I'll share some stuff that we're doing or attempting to do. Now, the last mile delivery is one of the most complex parts in the whole chain. Why does it become complex? You have multiple stakeholders. The place where you have to pick up the delivery could be a warehouse, could be a supplier, could be a cross-dock hub. You have the driver, and the importance of the driver has been highlighted very well. The vehicle, the route, and then you have the customer who has to be delivered. Now, these stakeholders have unique behavior patterns, and you are also having a host of constraints, some real life constraints and some constraints that are put in because of the environment that you work in. Now, let me just share with you some actual study that we did. We did a study in our lab for over 20 million trips, last mile delivery trips that were accumulated on the platform. And when I talk of the complexity in terms of multiple stakeholders, multiple constraints, and multiple behaviors, we found that only 12% of the trips, and a trip could have multiple delivery points, had greater than 90% commonality. And less than 40% had less than 50% commonality. So you are not going to be replicating the same thing again and again. And that adds to a huge amount of complexity, which a human being cannot be addressing himself. Now, in terms of complexity, there's also variability. The second thing we did was we took up 10,000 trips and repeated through a group of planners and asked them to replan it. And when they did replanning, we found that in 7,596 cases out of the 10,000 trips, the same planner addressed it differently. And in 5,441 cases, different planners treated it differently. Now, this is a complexity and variability that comes in this business. So the question that comes to fore is the era of static rule-based planning and execution over? So can we continue running this business of last mile delivery using static rules? When I say static, they're not permanently static, but you configure up a system to run on a basic set of rules. And then you change it when some analytics shows you it's not right, or you have a gut of changing things. But it is now with these kind of complexity and variability, with the data that I was talking about, you need to be able to be much, much more dynamic. The second thing is, 5 years, 10 years back, there was the debate on service versus cost. I think that era of service versus cost is over. It's service and cost. Now, as logistics operation involves a lot of changes happening at a fast pace, it is nearly impossible to handle deliveries automatically during peak time where a human being can handle it. Now, artificial intelligence and machine learning are the perfect technologies to integrate with logistics as they are dealing with this fast change. Now, what should a logistics service provider have to be able to be, provide these kind of services? So it needs a SaaS-based platform. And the reasons why there are SaaS-based platforms that are important, because these platforms undergo a lot of change and you cannot be going through regular upgrades of your platform. It's a big cost and a heavy pull down in terms of availability. A platform where you have AI ML capabilities built inside it rather than on top of the whole thing. And that's an investment that logistics service provider need to bring onto the table so that they are able to service their customers better and better and better daily. And where do I say better and better? Now, this is a world where you are never going to get to a perfect solution and saying, I found the perfect solution today. I'll apply it tomorrow, day after tomorrow, and the day after. With the complexity and variability coming into play, the capability of the system to address that is very, very critical. Now, if you look at our traditional methods of handling delivery operations, it involved a focus on minimum route planning or vehicle, the filling of the vehicle or reaching on time, safe transportation. Now, these methods sufficed earlier. But, as we've been hearing from the panelists before me, times have changed and we cannot continue to rely on the traditional static methods. Now, what is artificial intelligence? It's in simple terms, it's a machine's ability to mimic natural intelligence. How a human being handles variables in his mind and his experience and all the data that he can process in his mind, he has a limitation. Now, the beauty about artificial intelligence is it's like a kid. The more you use it, the more it grows and more it learns. There is an assured learning model. And the learning is so quick that it can pick up things much faster than what human beings can do. So it's able to learn, spot anomalies and errors, and prevent them. And these processes are accomplished through machine learning. And that's what the crux of the whole thing is. Let me share with you where is artificial intelligence and machine learning being applied in this world of last mile delivery. One is prediction of orders. Artificial intelligence and machine learning can analyze and prepare for the number of orders that arrive on delivery peaks, the type of items, the resources required, the risks in the delivery, by analyzing trends and behaviors of all the stakeholders and constraints. The location tracking system will give you conditions and failure. Is the waiting time at this retail store much higher than the other one? Do I need to park somewhere a little far away and then deliver the order? Does this shop or the customer take much longer time to actually receive an order than others? Small nuances, but they just add up to the whole thing. Now, with this prediction, of course, you can prepare for upcoming deliveries and peaks in logistics business that much more. The second area that it can help in is accurate and precise ETA. Now, we've been used to using route planning. We had listed different destinations, order of distance, convenience, their window timings for delivery. Now, it may seem effective, but it leaves out so many parameters which the ETA is required to be calculated from. It could be, the age of the vehicle impacts it. It could be the weather. It could be the traffic. It could be the driver skills that come into play. And so many more parameters which human beings cannot process. And that also means that you should be able to capture more real-time data and be able to process in the world of technology. Another interesting area where we've been able to use for last mile delivery optimization, AI ML, is load balancing. Now, logistics is one of those industries that are always in short supply of needed resources. On the other hand, tasks like delivery orders keep piling up in this industry. So how do I balance tasks with minimum amount of resources required? Now, traditionally, it's not been easy to do, but people have been doing it through experience or Excel or basic systems. But AI ML can help you in resource and load balancing much, much better than what the traditional systems can do. It can even actually tell you on repositioning of resources based on the prediction that it has done. Now, one of the interesting works that we've been able to do on AI ML is on what we call as batching. Now, what is batching? Now, there are certain delivery peaks or delivery orders that actually have certain patterns to them. Now, what we've tended to do, let's say geography is a pattern. We've tended to do is we worked on static batching. We said, okay, north of the city is one run and south of the city is the second run, west of the city is the third run, and the central of the city. So we try to batch orders. Now, is that batching optimized? Or should the same batch work every day? Now, how do I batch my orders for it to be delivered optimally? And optimally here means that in the time so that things like grocery don't get deteriorated, I should have the constraints of traffic, one-ways, train drivers, everything being catered for. So while we have gone into static batch processing, it's time that the industry moves to dynamic batch processing. That's another area that helps you to reduce resource requirements, and AI ML can work in a near error-free environment there. Another interesting area is on ride carrier capabilities. Now, what do we tend to measure a carrier on? Retail companies would measure them on, their on-time delivery, any damages, collections and all. But there are so many nuanced things that the carrier should be capable of doing. Consistency, placement times. Is he picking up in time? Is the delivery delayed because of something not happening in the chain below that? So a lot of other things can get measured across by artificial intelligence so that you are choosing the right carrier who can give you a consistent behavior and a consistent output as you go down in making the deliveries to your customers. So logistics business is hard and has many, many demands on the whole thing. Now, these demands in today's world can be met incorporating the latest technologies of AI. A large amount of data can be organized and manipulated in real time with these technologies. Now, AI ML, let's understand, is a journey. It's not some quick fix, plug, and it starts working. It's like literally giving birth to a kid, grooming it, and making it a good boy and a good man as it grows up in the whole thing. So there are three key things to the success of AI/ML. One is, of course, to treat it like a journey. The three P's that are most important is the people. This is a people's game. AI/ML is not a technology game. It's just a tool for using it. It's the people game. It's a platform game. And do you have the right technology partner to enable you through that journey? So this is some of the work and some of the third, Sudeep, that I thought I'll share with all of you.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for a very detailed explanation on the value prop which can be added through use of technology and AI/ML. I think I will straight away go to uh, understand additional aspect from Abhijit on the call. And Abhijit, while you are answering or while you are presenting your thought process, there are a few questions which have come in. If you could also take them. One of them is specifically for a company like here, which manages technology on the last mile side. These inaccuracies and these inefficiencies which exist in the system, for example, unclear addresses or traffic manners. How do you deal with some of that as you solve some of the problems which Mr. Nagaraju and Mani did speak about in the beginning? Over to you, Abhijit.
Sure, thank you. No, it's very enlightening discussion so far, and thanks for sharing all these aspects. Mr. Nagaraju is really good to very good understanding the way the ecosystem works, and also and as was Neville. The way I look at if I want to summarize last so many minutes, and in terms of like what are we trying, what do we have in front of us? One is the platform itself, which is creating, bringing the supply side and the demand side, which is the seller and the buyer, and how do we, how does the operator then facilitates these buyers and the suppliers? Is also driven by various levels of consumer behavior. Behavior in a particular country might vary by country. It also varies by cities, varies by regions, and also varies by the kinds of goods and services they're purchasing, and from a frozen food to an ice cream or vegetables or grocery, etc. The other point which was mentioned, which I picked up, was the platform itself. As the platform is evolving, the way the various facilities are given by the platform, including the payment option, including the possibly credit option, the way the platform should interact with the consumer in terms of how the good should be delivered and when it should be delivered, how should it take care of the privacy of the buyers, etc., etc. Also, a couple of other points which I picked up around the last mile, and of all the entire journey. The last mile is the most complex piece of the puzzle, because that is where the moment of truth happens, in terms of that's when the actual transaction happens from a buyer and seller perspective. There's a couple of other points which is also kind of mentioned, which is talked about the training, because there was talking about the gig workers who come into the picture doing the delivery, and that's also the scalability piece. And last but not the least, which is not picked up yet, but I think it's going to be, and it is very important, I'm sure this is in everybody's mind, is the data security and privacy. Because tons of data is being generated in these transactions, and how the data is being secured, and the credit card information is being secured, and the privacy data, and lots of data which identifies individuals, how they're being kept secure. So in overall, if you look at these various elements for last mile and the e-commerce, so clearly there are tasks cut out for various stakeholders. So of course the platform is evolving, which is bringing the buyer and seller. That's the job which the big baskets of the world are doing, and thanks for doing that great job. And I also believe that that is the challenges they are seeing is that how do they scale, and going from a tier 1 cities to tier 2 cities, and going to the top 20 cities and top 30 cities. And during the pandemic, what we've also seen is the behaviors have changed, and lots of these workers who are typically in tier 1 cities have gone back to their hometown, gone back to their native places, and that's very different. Lots of work from homes are happening where both the spouses are working from home, managing kids, and so on and so forth. And then also the kinds of goods and services also being purchased in many, buying food, delivering food was probably not very popular probably 3 years back, 4 years back, but from a vegetable to food to grocery to say, fashion, apparel, shoes, etc., electronics, and everything is being purchased. Now that's the context. Now coming back to the complexity which it then throws to the various stakeholders are the following. Number one is how do we ensure that the delivery, at the time of the delivery, the cost is taken care of? How does the companies stick to their promises? And I think Mani mentioned about, come what may, it has to be reliable. It has to be the serviceability, which is the key. That's where the promises are made to the buyer, and that's very, very key. When we look at the other topics as well, while these challenges will keep coming to the various stakeholders, but there are issues around, and there's lots of problems to be solved and as we go along. So it's a change management, it's a transformation while we all are on the job. It's not that we're stopping ourselves and kind of solve a problem. It's something which is very, very exciting and pretty addictive, especially those who are in this field and handling those challenges on a real-time basis. So what are we doing about this? And especially from a location technology player who have been, your technology has been in this space for the last 30 plus years and solved these various problems in the location technology. What we realized in last few years back that the industry needs a platform where it brings the various stakeholders to the platform, where it is basically creating various services. So we have these software as a services, which Sue mentioned during her presentation. So not only we are giving these various location technology services through various APIs and SDKs, but we are also bringing certain applications which can help various players to really go digital at the easiest way. Pandemic has also brought few interesting aspects in front of us. So not only the big players who have a technology, access to the technology, access to the investment for technology, but there are other players also, lots of retailers who are struggling because they had to close their shop. They are not able to service their customers. How do we make those guys digital, right? That's also one of the important aspect what we've seen. So our various SaaS products is helping them. We are, the application is going to help them. The key element, which then comes back to Sudeep, the question which you mentioned about the underlying challenge of the data. Addresses, for example, because end of the day, delivery is done to an address, right? That's a reality. And addresses is not about, like many countries, what you have a number with a street and an east side or the west side, and there is a zip code or a postal code. It's not. In India and many emerging countries, we know that addresses are typically next to a temple or next to a bank or next to a university, etc. It's a free flow text. It's not very structured alphanumeric value. And we have realized this problem since many, many years. What we do to address this is, one, I'm just going to share one example. We have gone to various consumers and try to understand what are the kind of typical patterns they use. What we realized is in India, there is a tendency of referencing to a landmark. And this landmark probably would be known in that neighborhood by anyone who comes to the neighborhood. And that referencing is very, very important. And how do we use that references in our underlying data as well as the various services? We ran a survey in India that was like 2 years back, and we reached out to, say, consumers who are doing transactions through e-commerce platforms. And we asked various open-ended questions. It was a structured survey where we said, look, if you had to, input your address, how would you do it? What are the typical top of the mind behavioral pattern? Then we asked this question, like, what are the top couple of POIs or points of interest, as we call them, would you reference to? And another interesting insight came across. Like we realized the POIs which are more static in nature, probably people tend to cross-reference to. And what are those typically are? Typically, educational institutions at a school or college or a primary school, etc., are very easily cross-referenced. Bank are very easily cross-referenced, and few others. So we have taken those patterns and put it in our database so that whenever we have someone is any e-commerce platform, any other references are happening, are being referenced to those static set of information. That's very powerful. We've also realized that some of the other set of information is very important to, say, a delivery guy. So now we're talking about the consumer who's providing their addresses as the input. But what about these thousands of delivery people who have to keep up to the promises, which is being put forward by a company like Big Basket or DHL and others? So we are able to give them certain references if there are parking which is nearest to an addresses. Are there like public transport information which can be helpful? So these are what we are using as a location technology company. So we are making our data itself is richer by day. Also bringing other local elements. And many countries have alternate names. Many countries use alternate names to the places of interest. Many areas or many geographies use that. So we keep adding those set of information. And then we also look at these various services which as mentioned. One also important point which we have created important is the platform. So in platform we have marketplace and also workspace. We realize this is a very complex problem to solve, and this problem can be solved by participation of various stakeholders. And these stakeholders could be a stakeholder who owns a certain set of data, which can be meaningful for a Blue Dart or for a Big Basket for us. So we are opened up this platform where we have these marketplace where the data providers can bring in the data, and then the data can be used by various stakeholders. And also we provide this workspace where if any entity has a certain set of data which they want to kind of curate further and then use it. And I think Neville talked about the AI and ML, and that gets facilitated further when you have the more and more data set. So just to summarize this, and this hand it over to you, so that in interest of time, is basically, we are fully aware the problems which you see in the value chain, from a demand supply side to the customer satisfaction to the privacy, as well as the training topic. We want to make our technology more intuitive so that can be used. And then we are solving some local problem through very localized approach, which was mentioned about the addressing, etc. And I think there was a question around the traffic manners, etc. We do have the traffic product and traffic services by country. So we use those traffic pattern services, which helps the delivery person better. And last but not the least, I think the key here is the promise which is being made to the user. And I think ETA, which is estimated time of arrival, it plays a very, very significant role. So if I've ordered an ice cream, if I have to wait for like 2 hours for the ice cream to come, maybe it's not up to my as a consumer, or probably the food item which I expect to come in 30 minutes, it arrives later. So this ETA varies by the goods and categories, and then that is the promises to be kept. So made and to be kept. So that's how I would summarize, Sudeep.
Thank you, Abhijit. I think very well structured, and the summary was also quite effective. So people, platform, and partners, which Naval spoke about, and then you just built on it, saying that is not one size fits all. Data inaccuracies will exist, but technology and more data is smart enough to maybe answer some of those while we are delivering the promise. May I go back to Mr. Nagaraju, and in this context, maybe ask him one specific question. So, Mr. Nagarajan, there's also a question which has come on from a participant asking on how do we deal with the expiry date, shelf life, damages, and some of those things. In addition to that, if you could just also maybe tell us that as a leader in this space, what are those 3 things which you think will change in the next 1 year, which will from a customer experience perspective and service level perspective, what change is likely to happen in the next 12, 18 months?
Okay, last 12 months, right, of pandemic has actually um, pushed pushed us at Big Basket to go back to the drawing board and some of the unique challenges that have happened, right? Just to give an example, one of the challenges that we have faced, or obviously, I think one of them mentioned is we have less number of delivery staff available actually to do the deliveries. And the interesting part is we have less number of delivery staff available to do some 1.6x of deliveries which we are doing. So, so, so we had to really get on to a internal slogan to how do you achieve more with less, especially the resources, right? And this is a very very key thing. This for us, the guy who is finally delivering to the end customer is the most important guy. I mean, none of us are important sitting in the corporate, right? So if less number of people are there, they're also taking a lot of risk with their lives, right? While many of us are safe, we are actually um, letting these young boys go out and risk themselves in some ways, going out to multiple houses, etc., and then exposed to issues and things like that. So one of the things we actually got down to the drawing board is what is that we can do for these guys. I mean, at minimum, if a company is running with a 1.6 revenue and we are dependent on these boys. So we at Big Basket, we always had this notion that they are very, very key to the entire success of the whole thing from the beginning. But then we realized that it's all the more so now, and we need to do something special. So beyond things like, taking care of them in some ways during this period, like maybe additional insurances, COVID insurances, etc. One of the things we specifically focused is on training on not only soft skills, training on safety, and training on motivating oneself, and also really motivating them to say that, hey, you guys are real, heroes, salute to them. And then we brought up a campaign called rock stars during COVID. And these are some of the things we did especially, and to first of all ensure that the limited last mile resources are adequately used. And second thing is, having said these resources are lesser during this period, obviously we have to focus hugely on the productivity element. So we have internally worked out a number of schemes, a number of methodologies in which, there's so much of the stuff being talked about on the routing, both by Mr. Naval and also by Abhijit. So we actually improved the routing algorithm, seriously looking into various aspects to see how in every bike order, for example, instead of doing 2.7 orders, can you actually deliver 4 orders? What is that required?
Did
Uh,
you reach
yes,
4,
yes.
Mr. Nagaraju? Did you reach 4, or that's a journey
We,
still?
we, we are actually at 3.7 now, 2.6,
Okay.
3.7 within about 13, 14 months. I mean,
Okay.
this was basically done looking into, really looking into what are the constraints, earlier, no, I mean, like these are not very critical, as long as that guy is making some money, we are paying something, he never asked for more. But suddenly productivity became very, very important because I had to use him to deliver more. So the second interesting point which came up was during this pandemic, traffic was less. So ideally, people are spending more time driving or wasting time in the traffic in many cities. So we actually had those extra minutes available to do the routing. So what are those extra minutes? I mean, that is the level of detail we went into to analyze. Okay, there is some extra minutes available, some 5, 6, maybe some 15 minutes from each route. He's doing 4 routes. So is it possible for him to do the 5th route? Because all the 15 minutes gathered together, another 1 hour is possible. That is one aspect. The second aspect also, how does one carry more orders in the same 3 saddle bags? In fact, I don't know if any of you, how many of you are familiar, for a biker or a scooter to carry grocery products. Earlier, it was an embarrassment because he used to carry crates in a huge backpack on his back, and we were roasted on the social media for being almost inhuman sometimes. This is, I'm talking about 2 years ago. So we actually broke that backpack into some multiple saddlebags, and which he easily slings onto the bike, like on one side one, another side one near his legs, etc. So he's able to split this. But the problem which happened was, many times the routing was such, it is not filling up, meaning one of the bags will be half empty.
Hmm.
Due to, because of the way the route is there is one small order and two big orders. So then we focused on how do you optimize the space within the saddlebag using the routing mechanism and using some picking elements. Maybe create a divider within the saddlebag so that one side can be one order, another side can be one order. So we did some process fixes and routing fixes to increase the productivity, right? So that is another aspect. The few of the things going forward, I mean, like during this pandemic, some of the solutions or we found was, for example, while Big Basket is so well known for its slotted delivery, all through our journey from day one, we felt that during the pandemic, customers may be a little more flexible on that. So why try to break your head on each and every route? Why can't we combine some slots, create a slightly larger route so that the vehicles can be better utilized. Vehicle utilization will be better because you are carrying more orders, and the routing efficiency also will improve. So those are some of the solutions. So we did some survey with customers, and we found that they're perfectly okay. So we are therefore created this new concept internal called mother slot. So what happens is, no, we actually we take the customer's orders in slots only, because customer is not confused with our well-oiled mechanism. But internally, we combine some multiple adjacent slots to do routing together. So routing becomes efficient. And thereafter, you put back those routes into different slots. And we can then tell the customer, okay, you are getting in the same slot only, but internally to us, it's a more efficient way of doing things rather than routing or doing a route for each and every slot. So this
Got
whether somebody came out with an idea. So actually, this pandemic has really helped us to come out with a playbook of features, if I can say, on the last mile delivery side, which we can pick and choose whenever we want. And another thing we did was, again, many of you who are customers may be familiar, we introduced the token system because the slots started filling. Because normally grocery, you would like to have it next day, today itself or next day, maximum. But unfortunately, because we have 7 day slots, all the 6 days, 7 day slots started filling up because customers are not getting so much capacity because of our own delivery constraints and lack of sufficient resources. Then what we did was to reduce the anxiety for the customers, who frequently open an app and say, hey, you don't have slots. We are running slow on slots. Please come back again. This come back again is, it's becoming a pain to the customer. So we said, okay, we'll give you a token. Internally, we will put you in a queue. You don't need to worry. Whenever your queue is reaching to the delivery likely slot, we will inform you. Immediately, you go and place the order at that time. And you can actually take your own time to place all the items. So these are some of the innovations on the last mile delivery, which we did in order to, ride over these crises. And I think when you ask that question, I feel that many of these features in last mile delivery innovations, both in process, are going to continue, are going to definitely continue. And just to add just one or 2 points on what actually Naval said also, is we are using AI and ML in a small way in multiple places to look at which delivery boys are actually consistently coming, because we have done the geofencing. So the moment he enters the hub after completing a trip, immediately we know that this guy has come early, so that it helps us to queue them properly. Otherwise, 4 or 5 of them will come to the counter and say that, hey, I want to take this route. Somebody will say, I want that route, etc. And the person who is allotting the routes is get into a confusion. So we use the AI/ML to actually give some indication on who are efficient guys, who are consistent in matching their routes and who are adhering to the routes properly, and then rank them in such a way that the queue actually decides how to rank them in a transparent, proper way. So there is no fight at the time of limited resources.
Got it.
One small example. We
No,
did.
no, very interesting. It's also very interesting that how these examples are not only thought but executed and implemented very quickly as well, because
Yeah.
that's quite inspiring that so thought is thought, and then you have an organization which is also capable of implementing it when it is needed.
Yeah.
We-
I
I'll
think I
just,
would stop at this. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
I'll just go to money maybe. Money, few more questions have come and a few more ideas which have also come up. I think the entire thinking around what can happen in the next few years and how EV or drone. Dinesh is also asking about RFID and some of these new technologies. What is your view on any disruptive change which is likely to happen in last mile, and then your views on EVs and drones? If you could just give your inputs on that.
Yeah, see, as I told earlier, Blue Dart believes in investor in technology well ahead of the time. Okay, and it was one of the first guys in the logistics segment to get flights, first guys to have API track and trace, live tracking of the shipments. You can track your delivery by. So Blue Dart believes in inventing in technology, investing in technology ahead of the time. Even drones, as we speak, we have partnered with the Telangana government for delivery of medicines in near Hyderabad, and we believe that. But there's a consortium which works towards it. So drone is not easy. It has to be managed the same way a flight system gets managed. But we believe in investing, staying ahead of the time, partnering with various partners who are looking at some of these initiatives. For electric vehicles, we started the initiative 4 years back. I mean, we started delivering through electric vehicles and all. Unfortunately, there are not many manufacturers which are there in India who would be willing to invest in the electric cargo delivery for electrical vehicles. Parcel locker, parcel is something which we tried 4 years back. We continue to invest in some of these. Being a part of DHL group also helps in this. So DHL is the only logistics provider in the world which has the largest fleet of electric vehicles delivering around Europe, shipments across Europe. They have parcel shops. They also use drones. So all this would change. Obviously, what happens with any technology is that you see that okay, it's future, and suddenly it comes and hits you. I mean, the way it happened with retail and e-commerce. I mean, physical retail started picking up somewhere around 2006, 2007, and suddenly it was 2010, and you saw that e-commerce started, and then you don't talk about the entire modern retail concept versus traditional retail shifted to completely to e-commerce. So that's what will happen with technology. But good anything for any provider, be it on the logistics side, be it on the side of the e-commerce players or the retail players, it's important that they keep on looking at what sort of technology would come, keep on partnering, so that when the right time comes, they are ready to scale it up in the future.
And Mani, if someone was to ask you in 1 minute, what should change in EV for it to become a dominant technology? Is it like the battery life? Is it the amount of cargo it can carry? Is it rupees per kilometer cost? What should change for EV to become, or is it just the supply of vehicle? What is holding it back?
So I think it is just the supply of vehicles, and that is getting hampered because of not charging and not enough, I would say, support infrastructure across the country. So when I experimented with with electric vehicles 4 years back, we can say that it was essentially the charging infrastructure which was pulling us back. Obviously, there were cases of the vehicle itself not being able to carry lots of loads which we could carry in the traditional infrastructure, but I used mainly for the last mile, trying to replace it with bikes. But that was a constraint. So it's essentially the entire infrastructure, which includes the vehicles and the support infrastructure required for that. People are willing to invest cost. I think cost would eventually happen with scale. So I'm not worried about cost at this stage. It is about the manufacturers and the people related to that who have to kind of start investing together in the whole process.
Great, great. I'm just being mindful of time. Naval, I'll come to you if you could maybe share your last maybe 2, 3 thoughts on what you think will be relevant for as practitioners of logistics. There are so many people in here. What will be your 2 suggestions on last mile, which you think will be big ideas for the next 2, 3 years?
Okay, so in the next 2-3 years, what I think is there's going to be a bigger shift to on-demand delivery platforms, and which are pre-connected to vehicles or the capacity side of things, and is also capable of plug and play into the retailers or the e-com companies and the whole thing. So I think that is something that is going to happen. On the go traceability is going to improve drastically. So it's not just about simple track and trace. We're going to see much more insights, and I think maps are going to play a very, very key role in that. And more predictive analytics in terms of being able to predict your loads and capacity requirements is going to improve in the next 2-3 years. The other key area is I also feel there's a lot of reskilling that is going to happen in terms of people getting involved in being able to use this technology, being able to create designs around this technology. AI/ML is finally a tool, or technology is finally a tool. It's the people who are able, how they're able to use it. So there's going to be a shift in the skill sets that's going to happen in the next few years. So that's my brief take on what changes I anticipate in the next few years.
Got it. Uh, so I think good insight on these.
Sudeep, I just want to add one point.
Yes, Mr. Nagar.
See, one of the trends which is going to happen from an e-commerce point of view, I think is more and more customers are going to demand faster deliveries. Okay, as of now, the best in case is same day delivery, which Amazon does, we do, and many people do it. But there is also a clear trend towards 3 hours delivery, and for all there may be a shift even towards less than that, 1 hour delivery or 30-minute delivery. Really, some people we believe that that's a trend which is going to happen, 30-minute delivery or 1 hour delivery. Now, what would that mean is there will be a need, whether it is e-commerce companies like us or last mile service providers, to create small footprint of micro dark stores, which is which might look like a shop front, but actually it's not a shop front, but it's only to just quickly pick up and deliver within maybe 2 to 3 kilometers of radius. So many such micro dark stores kind of concepts would definitely spring up in my opinion. Because in the case of Big Basket itself, for example, in Bangalore, we have such a fantastic density. We deliver more than, I think, 50,000 orders per day now. So we have 15 hubs, and these 15 hubs we expect are going to become 30 hubs. When that means as the density is increasing, your area of operation becomes smaller, and you need to have this efficient warehouse. I won't call it warehouse. It's more like a dark store. That's a used, where you can quickly pick up within 10 minutes, and the guy is immediately out driving to deliver within half an hour or 40 minutes. Those kind of so need for such facilities, design for such facilities, for a micro dark store. That's going to be the trend, which could be used by multiple platforms also. If LSPs come out with such a thing, maybe multiple product owners and multiple platforms can also use. And the other trend, I think, very clearly is going to be EVs. I think the time for EVs has come, just as he has mentioned, Mr. Mani has mentioned. We introduced in our delivery system electric vehicle long time ago, 3-4 years ago. We have 20% of our fleet out of 6,000-7,000 bikes, 20% of which is electric. Similarly, in vans, out of 2,000 vans, we have 20% is already electric. We are working with almost all the government departments across the country for ensuring that more and more electric vehicles are given easy access for loans, for buying, for registration faster, etc. We are working very closely with OEMs also. And most importantly, in all our hubs, we have enough and more charging points already created well in advance. So that anybody who's got a biker can come and charge his bike. As of now, it is free. We are saying charging is completely to our account. So the guy is delighted. I mean, there's no fuel cost at all, right? As of now, that's how we are trying to deploy. I mean, you need to play that part, like Blue Dot friend said, you need to be ahead of the curve to do some things on key aspects like charging, so that it takes off. And then in today's day and age, with the petrol hitting $100 and more, I mean, it's the right choice. And customers are also demanding things like food and groceries to be delivered in an environmentally friendly vehicle. there will be a more and more with more disasters happening, ecological and virus related and all, more and more customers will be extremely ecology conscious and friendly, and they would actually demand more less fossil fuel vehicles on the road. I think both LSPs and horizontal e-commerce players, vertical e-commerce players like us should take that cue and then build on this. That's what I feel.
Very interesting, both on dark stores and the electric vehicle. I'll just go to Abhijit once. Abhijit, any parting thoughts on what are the one or two things you want this to change for things to become easier for everyone?
Yeah, look, I think so. It's going to scale further. That's definitely, because the behaviors have changed and started to change, and it's going to go definitely, go to more cities, and more product categories will be handled through these platforms. And so when these happens, and so not only the last mile is going to be important, I think the first mile, middle mile is going to be important as well. It's like what Mr. Nagaraj mentioned about the on demand, or the expectations of the delivery goes beyond what it is today. It has to be very different processes and technology. So scaling first mile, last mile, EV definitely is it's present. It's not future. It's happening today. And I keep highlighting on the data security and privacy. I think that is also going to be very, very important.
Great,
Thank
great. Yeah, maybe I'll just quickly summarize, and we can then maybe call it a day today. I think for everyone, thank you so much for taking out time. I think we started with without money, described as serviceability and the importance of servicing that promise of what we have been called for to deliver from the customer. So, and then we went to the entire thought process of how this promise can be delivered through process to technology to scalable technology, to the points which then Mr. Nagaraju came up with on how innovation and improvisation is consistently required to deliver in a specific promise at a specific cost. Naval and Abhijit, you brought in the points around people, platform partners, and how all of this needs to come together for delivering this promise again. And I think there's more exciting time ahead of us with what Naval spoke about as on demand, and then scalability, all of our views on EVs and dark store, which Mr. Nagaraju did speak about. So this segment is just, the journey is still somewhere in between. I think the addresses are still imperfect, customer is still very mature, and all of us and different backgrounds are trying to solve this problem. So I think even 2-3 years from now, this topic will be quite a hot topic for CII to discuss this again. This is not going to lose its charm. Thank you, panel members, for taking out time. I think it was quite engaging and insightful. And thank you, participants, for sticking around. And lastly, thank you, CII, for organizing this and calling all of us. Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, CII.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Everyone.
everyone.
Have a very good day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sudeep. Thanks, yeah. Thanks, John. Thank you, everyone. Pleasure. Bye.
Bye.